There are a lot of people that are currently lobbying to stop lab-grown meat because they have so much money in the farming industry and in meat production. Apparently, those same people are also paying Fetterman and many other Republicans because right now there's a genuine debate as to whether or not lab-grown meat should be legal. They have made claims about how it's cancerous or it causes cancer and it's unsafe. I find that highly unlikely, as the FDA wouldn't really approve that kind of thing if it was. Red states are trying to ban not just the selling of lab-grown meat, but the research of lab-grown meat. So even if it is dangerous, you're not allowed to research it and find a way to make it safe, because the goal is not to protect people. The goal is to protect the people making lots and lots and lots and lots of money off the torture of animals. So let's hear what's going on with all this. Cultivated meat company and Florida farmer debate lab-grown meat across the U.S.
All right, we're back now with a growing new debate. Now, this may look like your average chicken fillet, but it's actually cell-cultivated meat, an emerging technique where meat is developed in a mail container just like this from a sample of animal cells and does not...
Dog, imagine how awesome it'll be if this takes and you never have to worry about biting into a strip of meat and biting into a bone or cartilage or sinew or like a really gross glob of like thick fat ever again. Like imagine you bite into like a steak or you like take a piece of a steak and it's all the good meat. Like there's no sinew or fat or connective tissue or none of that shit you cut around or can't chew and swallow. It's every bit of it is fully edible and as good as any other bite. Because it's lab grown to be the perfect, like cartoonishly perfect steak. That is my dream for this. Like, you know those perfect cartoon steaks you'd see in like Tom and Jerry as a kid? Or whatever, and you'd be like, fuck, I want to eat like one of those, you know? Those would be real.
Require killing animals. Proponents of the method say it's an ethical and sustainable protein option for generations to come. They also argue there are geopolitical...
The reason why the right is also trying to ban this is because the eating bugs thing, as an alternative, for example, is itself doesn't really need much to argue against, right? How often do you hear conservatives simply say, the left wants you to eat bugs? Well, now, they've got to find a way to make something that actually seems really good to the vast majority of people seem bad. So how do you make not slaughtering animals and we sacrifice nothing and still get good meat? How do we make that a bad thing? Well, let's lie and say it gives you cancer, or that it literally is cancer. That's what they say. Fetterman actually tweeted this word for word. Lab-grown meat is literally lab-grown cancer. That you were eating tumors. Fucking insane.
Political incentives to invest in the technology as the U.S.
By the way, if you're wondering why ethically they're against it, if they have any moral or ethical, qualms with it, this is stem cell technology. If you know what the politics are around stem cell research, you know. This comes from stem cell technology.
Its main competition in this space right now is China, which is ramping up efforts to improve their cultivated meat industry. But Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is saying he's against lab-grown meat, and Florida should be as well. Take a listen.
I know the legislature is doing a bill to try to protect our meat. You need meat, okay? And we're going to have meat in Florida. Like, we're going to...
Do you guys know why he's, like, stumbling over his words right now to make it sound good that he's banning the research into lab-grown meat? He needs his meat. Yeah, he's the meat man. He is the meat man. They called him the meat man in college, dude. They called him the meat man in college. Because he could take so much meat. Like, he could take meat into every orifice. He'd get filled up with meat. He'd be bloated and inflated with meat every night in college. That's how he got that nickname. Anyway, yeah, it's where Meatball Ron comes from. He got inflated into a big ball, just getting so full of meat. Just getting all fucking stuffed with all that meat. Every orifice. No, if you've been to Florida before, or you lived in Florida like I did, you'd know that driving down any rural area in Florida, it is miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles and miles of farmland. It is so much farmland. You'll be driving down a road, and on either side, there is a barbed wire fence. There's a ditch, and then a barbed wire fence, And on the other side, there's either a bunch of fucking cows or a bunch of horses. And there'll be like a few lakes, like man-dug lakes that are just filled with like rainwater because it rains all the time in Florida. And you'll see like the occasional enormous oak tree that was too big to tear down in the middle of the field. And that's like where the cows and horses get shade on a hot day when it's too sunny. Just miles of that shit. There is so much of Florida is farmland. The idea of that farmland no longer being profitable because lab-grown meat catches on, terrifying for a Republican who wants to make Florida an economic like hub, right? It's a big reason why Florida, and it's like hard Republican lean, is the fact that they have been a tax haven for a long time. Taxes are super low in Florida, and so if you know a rich person, chances are they have a Florida house for two reasons. They have a Florida house for vacationing in, but they also have a Florida house that house or a Florida house is one they legally live in like half of the year so that they're considered a resident of Florida and they don't have to pay state taxes. So tons of rich people, and they do this with Texas too, tons of rich people buy cheap property in Florida and Texas. Property is really cheap there, lots of empty land. They buy property, they build, they technically are a resident of Florida, and they pay like no state taxes, even if they spend most of their time actually in another state, in another house. And so Florida is just this massive like magnet pull for rich conservatives who want to like cut taxes and fuck over poor people.
Do have fake meat. Like that doesn't work. So we're going to make sure to do it right.
And Florida Senate passed a...
What is fake meat? What is fake meat? It's literally the same thing. It just wasn't carved from a thing that was alive 5 minutes ago. No one had to die to produce it. Pro-life conservatives arguing that any sustenance gained through something that is not through death is immoral. Can meat really be fake? If it was like a veggie burger, you could say it's fake meat, quote unquote, because it's literally not meat. But this is literally lab-grown meat. They grew the meat cells into a big hunk of meat in a lab. They replicated the cells using science, non-lethally, to generate more meat. There is no downside to this, assuming it is safe. And I've yet to see any evidence it's unsafe. I'm curious if we'll see some actual evidence that it's not safe in this news broadcast.
Bill last month banning and criminalizing the sale of lab-grown meat.
Not just banning, criminalizing the sale. I bet they're going to criminalize the research into it next. Reminder, they literally criminalizing. Fucking satanic. Actually satanic.
Governor DeSantis still yet to sign the bill into law, but the move comes as similar efforts to ban the product have been made in other states, including Alabama, Arizona, and Tennessee. For more,
all hard right states that when you drive through them, it is miles and miles and miles of ranches. I wonder if there's a monetary incentive here. I wonder if money in politics is fucking over human progress once again.
more on this growing debate, I'm joined tonight by Tom Rossmeisel. He's the head of global marketing at Good Meat, one of just 2 cultivated meat companies in the U.S. that have been approved by the FDA to sell their products, and Representative Dean Black, who is a Republican member.
Okay, approved by the FDA. So yeah, no, it's literally completely safe. It's been sold, and this is just banning and criminalizing its sale to protect monetary interests. Like, overtly. Like, it's already FDA approved and being sold. They just criminalized its sale to ban it in states, like banning anything, like banning TikTok, like or something. You know, they just banned it because people were liking it, and it was hurting the meat industry in the state. Just overtly. How SJW of them.
Of Florida's state legislature, but, and an important but here, he's also a cattle rancher. We thank you both for joining Top Story tonight. I'm looking forward to a spirited debate. Tom, I'm going to play a video for our viewers.
Man, the expert on the topic that's going to talk, versus a cattle rancher. The people who are against this are cattle ranchers? Who could have thought? The people who have a monetary interest in continuing to slaughter more animals for meat? They're the ones who are against this, pretty much solely? Interesting.
now that our great director is going to roll, and we're going to walk our viewers through what we're looking here. So the meat's built or assembled, I guess, in these metal containers, and then it comes out and it looks just like a fillet, right? I mean, if I were to buy that at the grocery store, I wouldn't know the difference. And after it's cooked, look, it looks like a chicken fillet. My question to you is, what does it taste like?
It tastes like chicken. I mean, it's real meat. It fries in a pan like meat. It smells like meat. It looks like meat. It's meat. If you're allergic to chicken, you'll be allergic to our chicken. The nutritionals are...
It's literally the same. That is a really good line. I like that a lot. That is a good way of emphasizing it is real meat. If you are allergic to chicken, you will be allergic to lab-grown chicken because it's literally the same. Molecularly, it is the same. It honestly might just be healthier. When you consider the fact this probably isn't pumped full of hormones, like growth hormone, like our animals are. It's probably not like eating like shit feed because there's no animal here. It's literally just the pure muscle cells being grown in a lab with no outside contaminants, toxins, or like additives. This might be some of the healthiest meat you could consume, actually. Hell, you don't even have to worry about how lean or fat the animal was, contributing to like how many calories the meat is. You've got consistency in calories. So like you buy a lab-grown chicken fillet, you know it's always the exact same amount of calories every time if you're a calorie counter like me. There's literally no downsides. There's none, except some rich people might make less money. Some rich people that aren't us or anyone we know will make less money.
It's identical. And the process starts, like you said, by taking a sample of cells from an animal, putting it into a bioreactor, which looks like a large beer brewery, as you showed there. And you let them cells multiply. You feed the cells very similar to what an animal would feed its own cells. So water, amino acids, lipids, vitamins, fats, things like that.
And
essentially, in our body, we have constant, like, they have created what is called a bioreactor. Funnily enough, it's wild how much Minecraft mods have gotten the development of lab-grown meat accurate, if you know what I'm talking about. There are mods that have, like, made this a thing. But the bioreactor is really just a man-made human body. The human body is a machine that takes in food and water, converts it into energy through digestion, and those things we pull from our digestion, water and all the proteins and acids and amino whatevers that we pull out of our food, are then used in a chemical reaction. Our body is evolved over billions of years, over different species, well before we became humans, anatomically modern humans, has evolved to generate muscle and tissue out of that energy, out of the things we pull from our food. And that takes a whole body to make that chemical reaction happen, to turn food and the energy we pull from the food. And they're just putting in raw what we digest out of food. They're just putting that in raw to generate like tissue and muscles. We grow up. That's part of it. We grow muscles from getting like buff, working out. That's part of it. They make that happen in a man-made machine. It's awesome. It's objectively fascinating and awesome.
Representative Black, I want to ask you, you're a rancher, as we mentioned. Obviously, lab-grown meat, not great for your bottom line. But in America, competition is what makes our products and businesses so strong. So what's your beef with this new beef?
Yeah, explain to me why in America it's all about competition, and competition's what makes capitalism so great. Why is it okay that politicians are criminalizing the sale of the thing that you are competing against? Why are politicians assisting you in a legally enforced monopoly to destroy competition?
Well, it's unclear to me that that would have any impact whatsoever on our bottom line, because I don't think there's much of a market for it. But
oh, man. Really? That's the route he's going to take? There's no way that lab-grown meat would have an effect on our bottom line because no one likes it anyway. The copium, the immediate goalpost moving, because he has to defend the banning and criminalization of lab-grown meat that's already FDA approved. It's completely safe. People like it. And it's just to protect his bottom line. He has to, he's going to just be lying the whole time. We're going to watch a guy desperately lie to defend his bottom line. Representative Dean Black of Florida, who is a rancher, a cattle rancher. Literally, the politicians in Florida themselves are ranchers whose money is in slaughtering cattle. Which, to be fair, the vast majority of Florida politicians probably are ranchers. Yeah, that makes sense to me. A lot of the wealthy people who could afford to run a campaign for local election in Florida makes sense. They'd be ranchers. They make a shitload of money. They're some of the wealthiest people living out there in big fucking houses out there in the country with lots of land.
The operative word in what the gentleman just said was that it's very nearly chicken. It's very similar to chicken. It's almost identical.
No, they didn't say that. It smells like chicken. It tastes like chicken. It is chicken. It is meat. If you are allergic to chicken, you'll be allergic to this because it is chicken. What is this attempt to pick apart what he said? He literally emphasized over and over again that it is literally, molecularly, identically chicken. It's just made in a lab.
And it's the almost that gets you there because it's not identical. There are certain micronutrients that exist in real meat that we know are important to human nutrition. And although
I've actually researched this, do you know what micronutrients they're referencing? Human growth hormone. Or not human growth hormone, growth hormone. A lot of the meat provided by cattle ranchers, and especially chicken farmers, lots of growth hormone. It's in their food, they put it in the water, and they like feed it to, they put it in the formula for the cows when they like feed them milk. Like the calves, I think is how it's pronounced. Always had trouble pronouncing that word. A lot of these quote unquote necessary nutrients are literally just things put in there by farmers to increase yield and growth amount in their like animals, so they can slaughter them younger and increase their and like lower the amount of time they have to keep an animal alive before shipping it out as meat.
the FDA has said that this type of product is safe, that doesn't mean it's healthy. And in Florida, we don't want our citizens used as guinea pigs. We think research and development is fine, but we think a lot of that needs to be done before we say this is going.
You banned it. You literally banned it and are moving to criminalize the testing and research on lab-grown meat. The FDA approving it means it's safe. It is safe. If you have such a big problem with food not being safe, wait, these are literally the people who have fought against trying to replace lead pipes and lead paint across the state. Like, why do Republicans, do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I don't remember that you are solely against any attempts whatsoever to spend money on making Americans' lives healthier? Like, these people spent, and still do, spend like a decade shitting on Michelle Obama because she wanted to make kids eat healthier. You know, like, these people don't give a fuck about whether or not Americans have a healthy diet. They don't give a fuck.